And a very good morning to you, Mark Robinson, CEO of New Zealand Rugby, after what's been a tumultuous couple of weeks for the game. Look, first of all, is the dust settling after the governance vote, the special general meeting last week?
Morning, Scotty and Izzy. You're straight into it.
Straight into it.
You're going to carry on, yeah. Hey, well, great to be on, and I think, as we said last time, we joined you both that this was a situation where, for the executive team, it was, and for the staff for that matter, it was one where we sort of weren't too involved in, and that's certainly the case through last week as well and around the vote. So our focus now, and we think that of the organisation primarily, apart from supporting Patsy and the board through this process, which has been action by virtue of the vote going through, is that we crack on and keep running the game. And as I said to you last time, despite this noise, we're really excited about some of the cool stuff that's happening across the game. So look, we had a great staff meeting at the end of last week. We had a really good executive team meeting last week, and yesterday, and we're on to focusing on all the big things that we need to do to keep the game going. And as I say, lots of really cool stuff going ahead at all levels of the game, and some really good signs coming out of the game as well that we are on the right track in a few areas.
I know you couldn't comment on it because it is a board decision, and as a CEO, it's a kind of hands-off for you. But it's still, you are the CEO of New Zealand Rugby, and obviously the commentary around that issue last week, the fact that it took away from the on-field spectacle, Super Rugby reaching playoff stage, it is a distraction, and it is frustrating for the fans of the game, frustrating for those covering the game. It must be frustrating for you as a leader as well. You head this organisation up, ultimately.
Yeah, you're right. And I think I said last time, ultimately things that impact on the reputational aspects of the game ultimately sheet back to me. And so at times where, we've probably seen the best Super Rugby Pacific competition in years, in terms of product viewerships are up, the attendances are starting to creep up. Our measures in the community game, we think, we're sort of 6-7% up year on year from last year, where there was a big jump. Teams in black, we're really happy with where the 20s are at. The Black Ferns had that slip against Canada. Sevens tracking well, tough weekend, very fine margins in Madrid, but overall we're happy with the preparation leading into the Olympics. And as I say, we've got some great things to look forward to in the second half of the year once the All Blacks come together. So yeah, it is hard at a time where we're, really in a position, we feel, to tell some really great stories about the game, and first time in a few years where the landscape's settled down coming out of COVID and various things that have been a disruption for the game. This is a great moment in time, but it is what it is, Scotty. We've got to draw a line under it. We're still, when we look across the game, we compare ourselves on the international context around all the headwinds and challenges coming at the game globally. I do believe we're in a good space.
Hey, Rob, it's an absolute shambles, to be completely honest. It's the goings on. You can't really understand it. Look, this situation came out after the Pilkington review that change was needed. Obviously, it hasn't happened. So have you had any conversations with the provincial unions, and what are they going to do differently so we don't get to the situation we're at the moment?
Morning, Izzy, straight into it. So good, you had a good sleep and you're waking up nice and positive.
It's his birthday today.
Is it? Yeah. Happy birthday. Into your 40s.
That's my birthday.
I'll answer your question. I'm not trying to distract Izzy. It's a fair question. Look, no, we haven't had direct conversations as yet. Obviously, there was a meeting between the board and some of the provincial union chairs immediately after the SGM. Again, we weren't privy to that. That was, I think, focused on the next steps in terms of bringing into action the proposal that went through on the vote. Our next opportunities, which we're really looking forward to, is to bring all the provincial union CEOs together in Napier at the end of June, and we're going to do a couple of days together. As I said, really looking forward. We're doing some work on our strategy at the moment, and feel excited about what work is developing there. We've got some work going on in the related to the men's pathways and competitions framework that we have. There's been a lot of dialogue in recent times about the structure of our competitions, and so we're going to be talking about that sort of work, and we're really wanting to connect in with them, hear how they're going in their worlds, and then move forward together. And so our role here, despite what's going on amongst stakeholders, is to, as I said to Scotty, try and draw a line in behind this and focus on going forward and how we can make the most of all the opportunities that exist for the game. Because there's never been more revenue in the game. I think total revenue across the game now is in excess of $330 million. We can make this work, but we do need to be able to bring everyone together to be able to sort through a model that's going to be sustainable and can invest all the key areas from grassroots right through to our teams in black that can make the whole game work.
Robert, anyone putting their hand up, not out? Because that's a lot of money. Where's it going?
Well, we've talked about some of the arrangements we have in place, and with our legacy arrangements, from many years ago, and with the growth in revenue we've had, some of those models we think we need to look to. And the really encouraging thing across the game is that everyone believes we need to change. And I guess we've been saying this for several years. It's become very apparent that we do need to evolve and change the game. But as we all know, bringing the stakeholder groups together and the different interest groups and be able to work a way forward and align around that is something that's a challenge. So that's going to be our focus. It's not for me to comment on what happened last week. It's really for me to comment and try and lead us through this next phase and get some alignment across all the different groups. Yep. And play a role in leadership here.
Mark, you mentioned men's pathways and competitions. Obviously, that work is ongoing, and I believe that work will go through to the end of this month. But part of that is looking at the provincial championship, and part of that is looking at the provincial academy structure. And I would say to you that a lot of the strategy is focused around maybe trying to concentrate those resources a little bit more. So where are you at right now around NPC, around the role of the provinces in development of players, and the centralisation perhaps of academies and the development competitions?
Well, absolute sort of first thing I'd say here, Scotty, is that we haven't developed any preconceived ideas here. We are going to this understanding some really good things historically that have happened through our pathways and competitions. It's allowed us to lead the world for many, many years, but we feel like it does need to be looked at the moment. And again, there's sort of universal acknowledgement that is the case. We've engaged with a gentleman by the name of James Morrison, who's leading this work. So he's going around the country and talking to different stakeholders around their views on it. And we've actually got a meeting straight after this interview where we're getting an update on that work. And we've got a small working group that come together. It's got representatives of those stakeholders as well as some of my team. And we're sitting down getting an update as to where it is. But the principles you're talking to about how do we make, our resources go further, how do we get greater alignment, are all really at the heart of this. How do we create a better model with what we've got? Because we believe, as I said before, in the system we've got enough revenue to drive this. We just need to, in some cases it might be more significant change, in some areas it might be just some tweaks.
Is the NPC sustainable? Is the national provincial competition sustainable from both an NZR point of view and a broadcaster point of view? Because we know that your broadcast partner currently is looking for cost savings. Are they putting pressure on you to take some games out of the ecosystem to reduce that competition?
Look, we believe the NPC is absolutely fundamental to our pathways. So in some form, that competition is really critical to what we have.
But
there's a point of difference.
Not in the current form?
So yeah, if you think about the model we have at the moment, I think everyone would say across the board, across 14 teams, that it's challenging. And so that's why we're looking for the opportunity to have these conversations. And there's all number of ways that it could evolve and change. I mean, talk about the cost base, the window it's played in the number of teams, the broad, as you say, there's all these things going around that are being speculated on. Again, we haven't formed a view on any of that, but we acknowledge and are heartened by the fact that everyone acknowledges we have to change.
So, Robbo, appreciate you coming on and being honest, mate. Australia, you're obviously over there in Australia and having a chat with your Trans-Tasman counterparts. What were the conversations like over there in regards to Super Rugby and the future of it?
Yeah, so you're right, Izzy. We had Friday, we had a pretty full day with the new Super Rugby Pacific Commission board. Yep. It was just formed. It was a good day. We talked through, we had a little bit of an update on 24, which again, as I said earlier, the numbers around especially media and broadcast is really positive. But we then spent a lot of time talking about 25 and beyond. 25, obviously, with the confirmation of the Rebels situation, we're looking at an 11-team comp, so there's some implications with the draw that we're looking at there, and we've made some good progress on. Looking at what worked really well this year, so things like afternoon rugby, use of the Anzac round, how we could do that better, use of the Super round, looking at Sunday rugby, so some really cool insights coming through as to what fans are really enjoying, and we sort of want to gravitate towards that, actually, obviously, and make the most of those sort of insights. We've talked a lot about this board being really focused on what the fan wants, and so we're getting some of those measures coming through now. We're also seeing great measures around the product, and we think it compares really favourable to other international club competitions. So there's some work there we think we can really build on into next year. So that's where the majority of the time was focused. Phil Waugh, the Australian CEO, and some of his team are back in New Zealand next week. So we've got 2 days with them, and that'll be focused a little bit around club competitions, but more into the international scene with the Rugby Championship, Bledisloe's, different views of calendar. They've obviously tabled and been pretty public about this notion of a Anzac Bledisloe test. So, let's hear that out and talk through it a little bit more. And you like that one?
Spicy.
I like that one.
Okay, something positive. You're starting to brighten up, Izzy. That's good.
I'm positive. Sorry, I'm just concerned.
Positive man in the world.
I'm concerned about where we're at. But look, I think the work's been done. It's just been a frustrating time. I know you're probably frustrated as well, Mark. So yeah, this just comes from the heart.
All good.
Robert, just finally, and I know we've got to get going, and so do you, mate. It's a big day, I'm sure. Just want to talk about positive news. How does the game start to generate the positive stories that it wants to generate? It's a complex setup for you now with your commercial arm, with NZR, with the provincial ownership of the organisation. How do you better access positive stories, and how do the fans better access the players and the clubs that they want to be a part of?
Yeah, well, I mean, firstly, we've got to get beyond obviously what's been a pretty challenging couple of months, but we believe the stories are there. We've got some great stuff coming out through this week. We're going to talk about a little bit more, which I won't ruin the surprise on, but there's some cool stuff happening in the near term. Look, I think that we've just got to keep ultimately telling our stories. The access and getting closer insights into the athletes, the coaches, and that sort of thing is something we're working on all the time. I think everyone in the game would acknowledge that there's been rapid change in that area, and if you look at other sports around the world, we've got some work to do in that space. But I think I get a sense certainly from the athletes that they're really up for that. They want to share. We've got wonderful. Close to some of them too, Scotty and Izzy is too. They're fantastic people who have got great stories to tell, as do our coaches. And so look, we'll keep working at that. There's obviously agreements in place that sort of monitor that at the moment, and we'll keep working through those agreements. But by and large, I guess we see this as an opportunity, despite the shadow that governance review has casted, to get back on the front foot and do some really good stuff.
Well, look forward to it. Thanks so much for joining us. I know there's so many topics we could have covered today, Mark, and as you know, there's always a lot going on in your sport, but we really appreciate you turning up.
Have a great day, Robert.
Hey, there you go, mate. Back up. See you, buddy.
Mark Robinson, CEO of New Zealand Rugby, joining us in the studio here on SENZ. Time to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be on the front pages. Dylan Cleaver joining us.
SENZ. It's Kiwi for sport.